I'm Dr. H. What brought you into the emergency room today?
I got back surgery a week ago, and I've just been feeling awful. I have a fever, and I've been in so much overall pain. I've noticed the incision area is painful and swollen, but I thought it was just from the surgery. I don't know what's happening. Can you help me?
Okay, let me take a look at the incision site. When was the surgery?
About a week ago.
The site definitely looks infected. It's red, swollen, and warm. Have you had any other symptoms? Difficulty breathing, changes in urine output, or changes in mental function?
The other day, I was feeling like I couldn't get a deep breath in, and have had a sore throat. I've also been feeling very tired lately. I haven't been peeing as much as normal, even though I've been feeling like I've been drinking water.
Okay, these symptoms could all be signs of sepsis, but we'll need to do a few more tests, and likely we'll have to admit you to the hospital.
What is sepsis?
Sepsis is when you get an infection and your body has a really hard time fighting it and can turn against you and fight with the infection instead of against it. This can be really harmful. We'll do a few tests to determine if you have it.
Can you tell me more about the test? I study microbiology, and I've always been very interested in the details of these medical tests.
Sure. First, we'll do a blood test called a complete blood count. This is a very common blood test that will tell us how many white blood cells are in your blood. This is important because white blood cells, or leukocytes, help fight off bacteria and viruses and other dangerous things in your body. A high white blood cell count can mean that you have an infection, and a lower than normal white blood cell count means you're at risk for developing an infection. So this will tell us if you have an infection in or near your incision site. Because you said you had a sore throat and difficulty breathing, we'll take a throat sample. We'll have to take 2 swabs for this test, the rapid antigen test and the throat culture. For the throat culture, we will take the throat swab and inoculate it on a blood agar plate in which sheep's red blood cells are used. Then we will streak the plate to isolate the colonies. Then we will incubate it. Afterwards, we will be able to observe the hemolytic activity on the plate and tell if there is pathogenic bacteria in your throat and what the organism is. We will also take a urine culture to see if you have a UTI and be able to see what fungi or bacteria are causing the UTI. For this, we will take a sample of your urine and perform a dilution series to determine the colony-forming units per milliliter. Then we will streak the sample into a McConkey plate and a TSA plate with blood. Finally, we will select a single colony and perform a series of biochemistry tests, including but not limited to lactose fermentation, hemolysis, urea agar slant, and swarming. The results of this test will let us know what bacteria or fungi is causing the UTI. The final and 4th test we will take today is a skin sample. We'll swab the area around and in the incision site. We'll streak the swab into an MSA plate and incubate it. If we see growth in colonies of bacteria, then we will streak it again on a second MSA plate. On the second plate, we will test for the catalase enzyme. Colonies on the second plate will also be tested for glucose fermentation, trehalose fermentation, and the ability to coagulate a sample. This test will help us determine the organism that is causing the infection.
Wow, that's a lot of detail. Thank you for sharing. What are my next steps?
I will just need to perform a blood test, take 2 throat samples, get the urine sample from you, and take the skin sample.
Okay, let's do it.
The results have returned from the blood test. Your white blood cell count is very high. We definitely will need to admit you to the hospital right away.
Oh, this is so painful. It's getting worse every minute.
The results have come back from the other 3 tests. The results from your UTI test came back positive for E. coli. The first sign of a UTI that we found was that we discovered 50,000 colony-forming units per milliliter in the sample that we took. We found out that the organism that caused this was E. coli because of the following 6 biochemistry tests that we proceeded with. The lactose fermentation came back positive, the hemolysis results were gamma, the Pseudomonas P. agar was negative, the urea slant was negative, the OF glucose test was positive, and the swarming test was negative. These results all led us to see that the organism causing the UTI is E. coli. As for the throat sample, the rapid test came back positive, so we proceeded with analyzing the culture. The hemolytic activity shows alpha hemolysis. We could tell this because it was green hemolysis. Further testing showed us that the bacteria present is Streptococcus pneumonia. This type of bacteria is responsible for community-acquired pneumonia, which means that you likely got this from the hospital during your surgery. Lastly, the skin test shows that the sample does ferment mannitol. It is catalase positive. It does coagulate the plasma. It ferments glucose and it ferments trehalose. From these results, we know that the bacteria causing the infection is Staphylococcus aureus. These tests ensure that you have sepsis. Staphylococcus aureus is what caused the sepsis. You might also know it as staph bacteria. It normally lives on the skin and usually does not cause harm, making it part of the human microflora. It's a gram-positive bacteria, meaning that it's stained purple, and we saw that this bacteria is cockeye-shaped and arranged into grape-like clusters when we viewed it under the microscope in a lab. When grown on regular media, Staphylococcus aureus forms golden-colored colonies at temperatures from 18 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius. They can grow anaerobically or aerobically. As discussed in the skin test, S. aureus can be streaked in an MSA plate, and growth can be tested for the catalase enzyme, glucose fermentation, and trehalose fermentation. S. aureus will show positive results for all of these tests.
Oh man, that's a lot to digest, but very helpful. What are my next steps?
Sepsis is very dangerous and hard to fight, but since you came in early enough, we caught it in a mild state. Now that we know the bacteria is present in your body, we can start giving you antibiotics in addition to fluids to help maintain blood flow and oxygen levels. We'll monitor you over the next few days. If you want to do more research on your own, sepsis.org is a great place to find good information all about sepsis.